Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. Today we will talk about Intel Core i9 9th generation prepared by Group 7. First of all, I would like to introduce our group member. My name is Tanij bin Zaidi and the other Muhammad Shahmi, Hairul Ashraf and Muhammad Azri. I would like to introduce you of Coffee Lake microarchitecture. The history is started from Sandy Bridge. Sandy Bridge had 4 cores and 8 MB. In 2011, the Sandy Bridge changed to Coffee Lake that has 6 MB, 6 cores and 12 MB. And in 2018, Intel released another Coffee Lake that has 8 cores and 16 MB, named Coffee Lake Refresh. Brand that have Coffee Lake is Intel Celeron, Intel Platinum, Intel i3, i5, i7 until i9 that we are discussing right now. Coffee Lake increase memory space and high turbo frequency and enable a highly overclocked process. This slide, I will introduce you of Intel i9 generation. Intel i9 is introduced in 2018. A family of 64-bit x86 CPU used the core Coffee Lake microarchitecture. Intel i9 can boost the speed and performance of database, allow PC to deliver HQ visual when paired with a good graphic card. Component we will discuss is CPU cores, DDR4, double data rate for RAM, L1, L2, L3 second, integrate GPU. This is the diagram of Lake microarchitecture. The 8-core Coffee Lake silicon is placed under the hood of the Core i9. The Coffee Lake silicon with 2 rows of CPU core flanked by the GPU on one side and the system agent on the other. Right upper ring Intel agent serve as 2 square between the various components. The last level silicon is scattered around across a slice added up to 16 MB. And this slide, we will talk about Component 1 CPU, Central Processing Unit. Intel i9 is the first ever to use the octa-core microprocessing. With their high number of cores, power drawn, terminal output and performance, they are intended to be used by PC such as game and programming. Intel i9 9th generation consists of 8 cores and 60 threads. The higher the cores threads are, the faster the PC could work and multitask. Manufacturer use a 40 nm lithogram for i9, and the smaller the CPU, the better it is. And Intel i9 generation offer base frequency range between 3.6 GHz to 5 GHz. The bigger the frequency is, the faster the processors run, and the terminal design power is 95, and i7 is 100 watt. So and the lower is TD is the better. So i9 is better than i7. Pro of Intel Core i9. The i9 series feature Intel hyper-threading technology for a speedier performance, and it can process 16 threads at once. Also, it to allow it to handle lightning fast gameplay much better compared to i5 and i7.
For this slide, I'm going to present about hyper-threading technology. Hyper-threading technology is a hardware advancement called Intel hyper-threading technology, enables several threads to execute on each processor. More thread enable concurrent execution of more tasks. How about hyperthreading works? Hyperthreading work with the CPU exposes two execution contact per physical core when Intel hyperthreading technology is active. As a result, one physical core now performs the function of two logical core, each of which can manage a different software thread. So hyperthreading technology has two benefits. For number one of the benefit is a PC can process more information in less time and run more background tasks without disruption. Number two, the technology lets CPU cores effectively do two things at once. After that, I'm gonna tell you guys about Intel Turbo technology. Number one, the dynamic frequency scaling feature of Central Processing Unit (CPU), known as Intel Turbo Boost, automatically increase some version of a CPU operating frequency while intensive tasks are running, resulting in improved performance. Number two, Turbo Boost enable processor are the Core i3, i5, i7, i9 and Xeon Series 1 manufactured since 2008. And number 3, Intel Core i9 9th generation support Turbo Boost technology 2.0 with maximum of 5 GHz frequency. And now how Intel Turbo Boost works. Intel Turbo Boost works, Turbo Boost only active in certain situation and allow the CPU to perform quicker than its default process speed. And then if the CPU find that some of its core are not being used, Turbo Boost will increase the clock speed of the core that are being used. And lastly, to make sure it stay below the TDP limits, the processor will monitor its internal temperature. Turbo Boost will lower the core clock speed to keep the CPU operating at a safe temperature if it start to generate too much heat. For this slide, I'm going to present about memory technology of Intel Core i9 9th generation. It has two technology. It is DDR4 2666 and DDR4 SDRAM. DDR is advanced version of SDRAM. Double data rate 4th generation synchronous dynamic random access memory. For DDR4 SDRAM, the clock speed cycle run at up to 2666 MHz for memory retrieval and sending. The voltage is 1.20 volt. For RAM and format, it is SDRAM, DIMM or SODIMM format. And then the charge latency provide a CL19 rating, indicating a high charge latency that would have an impact on performance. Provide a CL19 rating, indicating a high charge latency that would have an impact performance. For bandwidth transfer rate is 21.38 GB, provide a wider freeway which can carry heavier traffic.
Okay, so let's move on to memory architecture of Intel i9 9th generation. So it uses dual channel memory architecture and has some of features, which is the enabled RAM has two 64-bit channels accessible, and it also supports 128-bit, which allows for a maximum of 128 GB of RAM. Dual channel memory is good for better multitasking. If we take a look at the second diagram, this is the process of two DIMMs, which is the short form of dual inline memory module. The memory controller divides the data across the DIMMs, which enabling it to access each DIMM for specific tiny bits of data. It provides more bandwidth for accessing same amount of data. If we take a look at the third diagram, each channel supports 64 ports, and the channel 1 uses data bit from 0 to 63 bit. Channel 2, 64 to 127 bit. Therefore, the system considers the channel weight to be 128 bits. Now let's move on to our third component, which is cache system. So, CPU cache is an area of fast memory located on the processor Intel i9 9th generation use Intel Smart Cache, which is referred to the architecture that allows all cores to dynamically share access to the last level cache. Intel i9 9th generation use 60 MB Intel Smart Cache. The CPU cache comes in 3 different levels. The first one is L1 cache. It's run at the same speed as the processor. This is the fastest cache on the computer on the processor. The second one is L2 cache. The level L2 cache is used to cache recent data accessed from the processor that were not caught by the level 1 cache. The third one is L3 cache. Level L3 cache is used to cache recent data accessed from the processor that were not caught by the level 2 cache. Now we can see that how Intel Smart Cache works. Okay, the first diagram, this is cache system without the Intel Smart Cache. Okay, we can see that every core receive the same amount of percentage. This is not efficient and slower than it could be. The second diagram is the cache system with Intel Smart Cache. We can see that each of cores receive the amount of percentage based on their usage, so it could be more efficient and faster. If we take a look at the third diagram, if the core 4 want the resources, so the percentage gonna given the highest to the core 4, so it's gonna be more faster to the core 4 to access the data. So if we take a look at the fourth diagram, if the core 2 and core 3 want the resources and both of these core only, so the percentage gonna given to them only. Okay, the effect to performance is the cache exists to speed up the operation of the fetch stakes. The larger the cache, the more instruction can be accessed faster. The larger the cache, the more instructions can be queued and carried out. The faster the cache, the faster an instruction is fetched to the processor. So the conclusion is the more cache size, the more the increase the performance.
Assalamualaikum, and today I want to talk about comparison between Intel i3 and Intel i9 9th generation. For core and thread, for i3 is 4 cores and 4 threads, and for i9 is 8 cores and 16 threads. Maximum turbo frequency for i3 is 4.2 GHz and for i9 is 5 GHz. Charge for i3 is 6 MB and for i9 is 60 MB. Maximum number of memory for i3 is 2. It's the same with i9. Thermal design power TDP for i3 is 65 watts and for i9 is 95 watts. Memory type for i3 is DDR4 2400 and memory type for i9 is DDR4 2666. ECC memory supported for i3. Yes, it supported ECC memory, and for i9 it did not support ECC memory. DirectX support for i3 is 12, also 12 for i9. Graphic dynamic frequency for i3 is 1.1 GHz and for i9 is 1.2 GHz. And the last one is maximum memory size for i3 is 64 GB and for i9 is 128 GB. So the conclusion is, number 1, Intel Turbo Boost technology accelerate processor and graphic performance for allow the CPU to perform quicker than its default processing speed. Number 2, Intel Hyper-Threading technology, Intel HD technology, enables several threads to execute on its processor. More thread enable concurrent execution of more tasks. Number 3, dual channel memory architecture generally will improve your system's performance by doubling the available memory bandwidth. Number 4, Intel Smart Charge allow all cores to dynamically share access to the last level charge-based workload, reducing latency and improving performance.